Hey guys, Casal here. You're about to watch Thorin talk and talk and talk. But it's kind of good, I swear.
By the way, I have to ask that question. It's funny because in the modern day of Counter-Strike, every team's like anywhere now, bro. It's all people from all different countries playing. Everyone speaks English. It's like Dota basically now. Like it isn't the old vibe of everyone's from one country. But back then, this was not only the first team. Bro, it'd be one thing if you had like, a Danish player in a Norwegian team. That could vaguely work. Having these weren't even just like North Americans and Europeans. I can tell you these North Americans were fucking crazy even for North American standards. Like Method, as far as I can tell, was the guy who just silently just headshotted everyone. But I've heard weird stuff like that in a way he was like banned from using grenades because he just like grenaded his own teammates and something. And then shaGuar, as everyone knows, first of all, this is the guy who has like every excuse in the world not to turn up to practice. He's really good in the lands, but then he's this wild figure. He really is like he appears on camera. He's a crazy figure. But so combining that with Norwegians that are playing like tactical CS and trying to do strat, what was this clash like? It sounds interesting. Did it work? How did you make it work?
It was probably a lot because of XeqtR, and he actually embraced their style. And it's true, like you said, Method couldn't throw nades. He would flash us, he was nade us, but he was so good. You could just put him in every position, and you knew he was going to headshot 2 or 3 people. But if you use nades, he was going to kill everyone of his teammates. So
is that true that he got banned from that? I heard that was something inside the team. He was like banned from his HE grenade, right?
Yeah, it's no joke. No joke. I was pretty bad with nades as well, but not even close to Mikey. And shaGuar, he was a flamboyant player and a guy. And XeqtR, he figured that out pretty early, so he had to play on his strength. He was not keeping him on the leash. He was letting him do his thing, even certain boundaries, of course. But
right.
if you caged shaGuar, he would not play good. He would not be happy. You had to play on his strength, and he had some tact. After a while, he figured out we can't push every round with AWP in close combat. We have to do it sometimes, not every time. So when he figured out a little bit of the European style and a lot of his flamboyant style, he was just got to be an amazing player from both worlds.
Because one of the reasons I wanted to ask this is before XeqtR, when elemeNt joined instead of BSL, there was this period where on paper, like everyone thought, because you guys came second to CPL, holy shit, they're going to be like the number one team. And it actually went really badly. You guys were like going to SWC. And one of the reasons I always thought of why is, bro, if you think of the lineup before elemeNt, it's 3 Norwegian players who are all really good at like, I'll do whatever roles necessary or like, we'll set you guys up. Later when you have XeqtR, he's like the drill sergeant. He'll make sure. I feel like elemeNt and Method in this angle, it must have been a bizarre team. What do you think went wrong with this lineup? Because I think these were really shocking results, bro. Everyone thought you were going to at least be like top 3 at the tournaments and stuff,
Yeah, I know. I don't know, really. We were pretty good in practice, but it was not as much discipline that we were used to. We lived the whole summer for 2 months in Huntington Beach, LA. It was probably too much social life and too much chilling. Not enough practice, and it wasn't serious practice, so maybe that's one of the reasons why we didn't succeed. We won only like a local LAN in Colorado and some ESWC qualifier, but I remember when we went to both CPL and ESWC, we did not play up to our potential at all, and that's of course not great, but it was maybe we could get caught up in a situation. It was fun living in LA and having sun all summer and socializing with other teams and like that.
Since I asked at the beginning of the interview, what are you like as a competitor? Listen, maybe other people can go, oh, whenever I blew this event, let's bring another player and that shit. How did you go into like an international landing? This wasn't even 8th place. You were doing like 9th places and terrible positions. Like, could you handle it? Was it getting to you?
It was, of course, annoying, but we just had to figure out how to get out of this slump. It didn't affect me as a player. I didn't like. Of course, CS is a lot about confidence. At the beginning, you lose a little bit of confidence, but still, it didn't affect me really that much personally. It was just the worst thing was reading about on the internet how much you sucked at this tournament. You wanted to come back and show them. So you were kind of maybe getting a bigger fire in your stomach just to show them off.
By the way, another question I have about shaGuar, especially in the later team where it was really, really good and you had XeqtR and you started winning the events again, is if people have ever seen the frag movies he made, he was actually also really cocky in the sense that back then there was like an unwritten rule in pros, which is you can use the like tournament demos, but you don't put your scrim demos in. By the way, this guy didn't give a fuck. He wrote down every fucking insane clip, got them all. So if anyone's ever seen like Final Reality 2, that movie that got leaked that he made, it is an insane movie, but most of it's all scrim clips. And if you ever watch this is why I ask this question. Bro, this is a guy in the game. Think about like a European AWPer. Because the AWP's such an expensive gun. If you're European, you tend to play it like, quite conservatively. You play off the off. This guy just went for every fucking shot. It looked like it seemed like I could say his in-game style fits his personality. He was a crazy player, right?
Yeah. He was probably a better close combat. He used it like a shotgun.
Yeah, no scoping.
Yeah. The longer range shot he wasn't that good at, but if he could just be flamboyant and jump around and shoot, he was probably the best in the world. But of course, sometimes he wasn't bad with the M4s or AKs either. But it was never fun dropping an op to a guy that dies almost on purpose. So we probably had some discussions about it, but I don't remember that well.
By the way, when I asked that question earlier, was that something that happened in your teams? Because I know from past teams he was in, that was a complaint some teammates had. They liked him as a teammate, they thought he was skilled, but they said he had really bad work ethic. Like I said, the joke is, one teammate told me, he was the guy where it's like he would even forget his excuses, and it was like, for the third time that month, his brother had a birthday or something, he didn't turn up to the scrims. And if I always felt like, because I knew him as well, he's the guy where it's like, he doesn't care when it's like the middle of the season. He's waiting for the LAN. When the LAN comes, he's going to be super hyped. Like I always felt like he seemed like a very up-tempo, high-energy person on the LAN. What was he like as a teammate in this sense?
I think he got a bad reputation about that. I don't remember him as having a bad birth ethic.
Okay.
I think he played a lot of scrims or mixed games during the off season. If anyone on the team weren't playing, it was me.
Oh, fair enough.
Actually, and I think playing in NOA with the Norwegian did a lot of good to shaGuar.
All right.
I think he calmed down, and we spent 2 months with him straight. We got to know him as a person. He got to know us, and he was more of a chill guy after NOA than before NOA.
Right.
So maybe we molded his personality a little bit, but I only have fond memories of him, both as a person and as a player. We got along great.
And then in light of what I talked about earlier with the eoLithic, where you had this weird dynamic, by the way, perfectly way to describe it, they were just fire and ice, elemeNt and XeqtR. But it's like when you combo them together, they're on people. As soon as I remember as a fan just seeing that move happening, like XeqtR's joining away, I was like, this is perfect. Like, let's just run it back. Like, this is almost sort of what eoLithic was supposed to be. Like, of course you guys were capable of winning everything, right?
Yeah. And even though we knew it, maybe this is not going to work out again.
Sure.
It was still worth taking the chance, because when everything worked, the team was going to be unbeatable, and we went on to finally win the CPL Winter, which I struggled 2 or 3 years prior, or 4 years prior to that. That was such a great chip off my shoulder to finally win a major, or what it's called. Even though we almost blew it at that tournament, not because how we played, but we did the famous bug flash against Big Rip or Eyeballers.
Yes.
So we were kicked down to the lower bracket again and had to struggle. But this time around, we finally conquered everyone and beat Eyeballers 2-0 in the final.
Yes.
To come back, and that was probably the highlight of my career tournament-wise, because I had played at that tournament so many times, never being like a world champion. So it was a great feeling, and it was probably with the best team I played with. Also, the combination there was just unbeatable.
Yeah, by the way, there's another asterisk I could put onto the result. So famously, that is the trivia piece. This was the only team to ever come from the lower bracket. But as you said, no one even knows if you should have been in the lower bracket, because when that game took place on Nuke that you're talking about, the rule back then was crazy. It wasn't that if you flashed, you lost that round. You lost the rest of the half. And bro, I think it happened like early in the half. I think like fucking shaGuar, someone just fucking flashed the box, and it was like, basically that's like game over almost at that point, right? It's kind of bullshit, wasn't it?
Yeah, we played out. Was it max round 15 back then?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Let's just. I think so also. And we bug flashed pretty early, but still we had to play it out because the admins had to check the demo
right.
halftime just to confirm we bug flashed. And shaGuar threw a useless flash towards ramp when they had eco only USPs, and back then the USPs were shit, so they couldn't kill us anyway. And he bug flashed, and we lost we won the half 11-4, but it ended up losing.
I think it was 10-5.
Yeah, 10-5 or something.
To them.
So,
yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. So every round after the bug flash, they got. So obviously it was going to be pretty hard winning the game against such a good team as Eyeballs.
Did that make you kind of think, though, like we didn't really lose to them when you played them in the fight? Did it kind of give you confidence to battle them?
Yeah. We knew we were capable of beating them twice. Because if people don't know, if you came from the loser bracket, you had to beat the unbeaten team twice to win the tournament. They only had to beat you once. And we were confident that because our play against them early in the tournament and against every other team, we were comfortable. We were thinking that they were capable of beating them. So.
By the way, this final also, if people, because what's funny is from knowing so many players over the years, I get the other side of it. Like when I've spoken like Valley and all the Eyeballers players, by the way, that first map is their nightmare, bro, because that was the one that they lost like 16-14. And it was like, this was the one where your team won those, North Americans won those two 1v3s. Remember there was like the method one where you had like one health or something insane. And then there was that shaGuar one that's actually in his frag movie. That's just ridiculous when he's in like the pit on fucking, these rounds, bro, when you win rounds like this, it feels like you're just supposed to win the event if you win those. Right?
Yeah.
It kind of has to be that feeling.
Yeah, you get so pumped as a team as well. Of course, everyone gets pumped when you win a round, but when you win those kind of situations, it's so heartbreaking for the other team. They get so mentally down, and we get a super boost, and so it's so much. We are just fearless after that, and they're. It's very harsh, of course, because they had a great team back then, especially Valle. Yeah, and
it was sick.
But that's what you get from having two Americans on your team. They do weird stuff, but they do things that no one expects. They win things that us Europeans never would win. So that's why maybe the team was extra good, because we had a mixture of two worlds.
It's funny you say even, I mean, first of all, because of the elemeNt XeqtR part, but it's funny you even say that, like, you kind of knew it wouldn't last that long. Because at the time, I was actually friends with shaGuar right before this tournament. I actually came to this tournament as well. And he told me, bro, like on like MSN Messenger or something before the event, like, I don't think he even said win. I think he just said, if we don't have a good placing here, we'll probably just break the team up. And I was like, what? And so when they won the event, I remember thinking, like, look, it didn't even last that much longer afterwards. It was only at the WEG tournament. But I remember thinking, like, I don't think people know in history, like, but I've heard this team wasn't even actually like owning all the scrims before the event. Like, was it actually also an event where you weren't sure you would win?
Do you mean before the CPL?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. Because like I said, we were two people living in the US. We were three people living in Europe. So we did not have sponsors paying for travels, and did not have sponsors paying for boot camps or every year our own practice arena like they have now. So we, after the summer fiasco, we had to maybe didn't see each other for a couple of months, and I think we only saw each other 2 or 3 weeks prior to CPL Winter.
Oh wow!
And then we practiced for 2 weeks at the LAN center. So that's why we were pretty good. But when you only have 2 weeks for a boot camp for a team that hadn't played together for 3 or 4 months, it wasn't. Things felt a bit shaky, of course. So we didn't feel super confident, but once we got going, we felt we're probably gonna win, or at least we hope so. But the tournaments were so rare, and the sponsor paid so little money. So to have an American European team over time was not sustainable at all.
And then after
the economic situation, yeah.
And then after this, you went to the World Esports Games tournament, the one that you won. And here's the thing that's interesting about this tournament. First of all, like the money was crazy. First place was like $50,000. It was like mega back then. But if people don't know, because this was an event in Korea, they did it the way Korean esports is done. It wasn't like CPLs took like 3 days. This event, I think it was like a month or something crazy, bro. And you were like, each game was like in like a TV studio or something. Give me some thoughts, because this sounds like a really different environment from CPLs, etc.
Yeah, it was actually 2 months. We went. It was like you said, there were only invited teams. We were 8 teams, four or 6 from Europe and 2 from one from Korea and one from maybe 2 from Korea. I don't remember. I don't really.
I think it was
remember,
a Chinese team as well, maybe. I'm not sure.
Probably. And we were staying at this old Olympic village outside Seoul, and we were there for the only time we went into the city, because it was like probably an hour or 2 hours commute. And we only stayed at this location for 2 months. The only people we saw was the cafeteria people and the other players. So, but every time, once a week, we traveled to the biggest mall in Seoul to play in a TV studio, live broadcasted on a TV channel that usually had around the average 10 million viewers, at least for Dota games,
sure.
Maybe not CS games. Yeah, but it was a huge deal for us because it was so professional. You played live on TV, and you had a lot of people watching you. Because at CPL Dallas, the only people that watched you was people at HeatoN and the people that was at the arena.
You're the players, etc. Yeah,
fans, the players. Yeah,
exactly.
The fans and players. But here we were live on TV, and it was really cool experience. But it was also a long time to be there for 2 months.
Yes.
And playing one game every week, and the only scrims you could do was against the other teams at the same location as you, and you couldn't reveal your tactics. So it was a great experience, but 2 months was too long for how the event were set up.
I feel like there's an obvious question here, which is just based again on people I've known that were in these teams. Don't worry, mate. It wasn't just your team, but I can tell you the downside of these events is these events were team killers, because since the normal events, like we say, you go home to your home in wherever, Norway, you live with your family, you just play online. It's easy, by the way, to get along with teammates. We just see him online. You type to him, you go offline, you turn the PC off, he's gone. It's one thing to go to an event like you're saying with the NOA when you were there for a week or two and you have to be to 2 months with the team, bro. If you have people like XeqtR and elemeNt in the same room for 2 months, and then shaGuar's annoying people, and I think there was some story where he was like waking up early and fucking making noise or something like. Yeah, this could never have lasted. This team was always going to kill the team, right?
And we lived the 5 of us and our manager Gary Sanchez lived in I don't know, maybe like it was a small room with 3 bunk beds. And our computers were in the same room. The room was only a square with toilets and beds. 2 months, and me and shaGuar XeqtR pretty much got up early. I was quiet because I was considerate. shaGuar, on the other hand, not that considerate. He was making a lot of noise, and that pissed, of course, elemeNt off. And then elemeNt and Method were sitting playing World of Warcraft till 4 a.m, talking. elemeNt, not that considerate, pissed me off, and XeqtR off. So we just had that going for 2 months.
Because here's the difference. You know what I said before with the SK one? It's still a mystery to like anyone except elemeNt. Like, why would he leave the team? Like, this one, I sort of get why he left, bro. Because like I say, this wasn't known publicly at the time, but if you know the stories of a load of teams, I think the same with the GamerCore people. I think, loads of teams broke up because of this event. It just was kind of like too much strain. Like I say, that wasn't the pro life. You didn't spend months around people back then. This was kind of like very unusual.
Yeah. Like you said, usually it was like maybe a boot camp for 1 week and then the event for 3 to 5 days, and then we didn't see each other for a while. But you had to see everybody, see the other guys 2 months in a row in the same room, 6 guys living together and eating cafeteria food, and couldn't even go to a store because it was so far away from everything. And I just remember one thing. Do you know about shaGuar had like a poker? But he won some EPTs and he went to the final table at main event. Yeah, he got like a big deal in the poker world. When we were at WEG, I remember us playing poker. He probably didn't know what a deck was even. So that was his.
Right.
That was his start to knowing cards and playing poker.
Okay.
That was at that boring village and at the WHG.
Right. That's a good story.
He probably doesn't even remember it.
Sure.
So yeah, I remember it. Yeah, he had no clue.
The one thing, though, I will say that is bullshit about how elemeNt left, though. I do remember this detail is, I think he left like a week before the next WEG event. Like, it's not like he just left after the first one's like, right, see ya. Months later, he basically, like, not only did he leave, but then he went to like fucking Four Kings or something ridiculous. I can't remember which team he went to first. He just went to some other team again, just with a mate. And then it's like, you guys, if the story I remember was, originally you were going to take Fisker, who was like for the fucking Swedish guy who was the benched player in NIP, and then he couldn't even attend. You had to take that Quick guy, who was a good player, but you had to take him like last minute, basically, right?
Yeah, this is probably the only time I got really annoyed by elemeNt leaving. Because the first WG was probably like January, February, and this one was May, June, something like that. Doesn't matter. But he's decided he got a new best friend again. So I don't remember which team he joined, but he was probably maybe the Four Kings, like you said. I'm not sure, but he told us just a couple of weeks or a week before, and remember I think me and Mikey talked on MSN and just what are we going to do now? None of us really wanted to go. We just lost interest in going and starting practicing with another guy we haven't played with before. So, but we had already gotten booked for the event. We had already had our tickets paid for. So we just tried to find someone to play with us. And like you said, we probably tried Fisker and maybe we tried other people, but XeqtR had played with Quick in Adrenaline before, so he said, okay, I know Quickie, he's probably one of the guys that's one of the best guys we can get now, so we just said, okay, let's try it. But when we got there, we knew we were not going to do it at that event. We went there without passion at all. We just went there on vacation pretty much, and just did not have fun as a team during that. So we did really terrible there, and we probably just had to go home after like 2 or 3 weeks. And that's where I only hung out with the Catch Gamer guys.
Okay.
Which I later joined.
Did your own elemeNt version? Okay, right.
No, we knew we were going to be done after that that tournament. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I have one question, but I'll be very careful how I phrase this. Right, so the story at the time when this team broke up wasn't that it just broke up because of the bad result and elemeNt left. The story was you just won 2 giant tournaments, so it should have been loads of prize money coming. And then people claim that the manager guy, Siege, just kept the money, or if he got it, he just never get up. People, even at the time, there's all sorts of conspiracy. Because he was friends with elemeNt, people thought him and elemeNt spent it when they were partying or whatever. What would you say about this? What's your take on it? What's your story?
I don't. First, the CPL money for the winter event. I got my money. I know some of the other people got. I'm not sure everyone got it. From the WG win, 50k one. I never got my money. I know XeqtR didn't get his money. I know that's what I know for a fact. The others I don't know. I have my thoughts about maybe where the money went, but I'm not gonna elaborate that much online. But it was no secret that Siege were our manager, and he had gotten us a lot of sponsorships. And they paid us monthly salary. They paid for our plane tickets and everything. There was like AMD, A-Bit, Asus, whatever, a lot of good brands. Yeah. But allegedly, we never got the money. So he had paid for everything with his credit card. So he had to like reimburse himself with our prize money. That's the official story. I still don't know if I believe it, to be honest. but just leave it at that.
Yeah, I thought I just left it wide open on that. We don't have to go too in detail. After this, as you say, you then went to another project BSL started. That, by the way, this is how you know BSL's a cool guy. If you ever need a team, just hit up, call BSL, hey, can I join your course? Come on over. And then if people don't know, listen, later versions of Catch Game have got all the best players in real and all the early lineup was actually like a way more smaller lineup. It was actually like BSL and the rest of the Norwegian players. He was kind of like building up newer players, right? I actually thought when you made this team, it was an interesting project, actually. I wondered where this is going to go.
Yeah, I had played with BSL earlier, and we were always great friends. We still talk sometimes, play sometimes, meet. We live in the same city, so we sometimes go out and get a beer. So we both enjoy each other's personalities. So, and I had the skill to. They were back then like they are almost like a local Norwegian team again with unknown players, but they clearly had skill because during the time we were in Korea winning a top tier LAN, they were at CPL World Turkey and they won that.
Yes,
of course against 3 random teams.
Sure.
So of course never going to give BSL any credit for winning a big tournament, but they won that.
True.
Yeah, so I just decided, and the manager there, the owner, he was a guy that's from my native city where I'm from.
Oh,
so he knew about me at least skill wise, and it was going to be big for him to bring back a huge Norwegian star and a guy from his hometown. So they asked me to get in the team, and I was done with it anyway, and I was probably kind of done with CS as well. I did not really have the passion when I joined them, but okay, let's go. Let's try another adventure because I still love traveling and competing. But yeah, and when I joined, there were BSL, Juve9le, and Zevi and Juzam. And I don't know if people even remember a lot of those guys, but that's probably socially the funnest team I've ever played.
Right.
Yeah, we had such great fun during our travels. Still remember to this day how much fun we had.
If I ask about a couple of those players, I will tell you, I do remember, first of all, I actually also knew BSL, like I said. The one he always used to hype to me was actually the Juzam guy. He was like, this guy should be so good if he fucking like wanted to be so skilled. And then people might know, I mean, this other player actually later played with elemeNt. So the Juve9le guy was just clearly a talent, right? These guys, they were up-and-coming players, right?
Yeah, Juve9le, he was probably, I don't remember, he was coming from like a team called Norwegian Star, like a couple of others. He was that super entry fragger. So he was starting his career where I was pretty much a little bit done with my career.
Right.
But I still had that experience, and I was at a level so I could still play with them. But we were going opposite directions in our career. And Juzam, he was 1 year older than me, and we went to the same school actually when we were younger. Okay. So I knew about him, and he's a guy I still talk to. Same with BSL and Juve9le. And he was kind of like player similar like me, very calm, great at CT and just putting down people. So the mixture with the personalities there were probably the best ever. So the only reason Juzam, of course, had great skill, but he never reached his potential because he got stuck in World of Warcraft.
Oh, right, one of those.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He overslept when we were going to have practice at 8 at the evening.
Right.
So after a while with that, we just said, okay, you don't want to do this anymore. He said, no, I want to be in Azeroth and play.
By the way, that's another thing that's a famous trend that won't exist now because people won't get it. The 2 games, Everquest before that and then World of Warcraft, killed so many careers. The joke is, I actually for real have never tried those games because I treated it like crack or something, bro. If you've seen people ruin their life, you're like, I'm staying away from it. I'm sticking with CS because the amount of people that when they started playing, even if they were like top level pros, it's like you say, it was almost like the Matrix. They didn't want to be in real life and be pros. They just wanted to play that fucking game all day long. Were you ever into that shit?
No, never.
Right.
I'm not a biggie of. I'm not a huge gamer. I like just a few games. Before I started playing FPS games, it was always like Championship Manager and football games, and FIFA and things like that. But the only things I ever really liked was CS, Quake a little bit, and actually PUBG.
Oh, okay, right in the modern day. Okay.
Yeah. But I've never been a gamer that tries every single game, and I'm never. I know I'm not gonna like WoW and Dota. That's not my style. So yeah, but like you said, people got stuck in that world because now people think, okay, wow, World of Warcraft, wow, it's so boring. It's been out for a while, but back then it had just come out.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was amazing open world that people had almost never seen before with great graphics. So people just got hooked on it and didn't care about anything about social life and yes, if they first got hooked on it. So that's why we dropped Juzam. And Zevi we dropped because he wasn't really good enough, but him and Juzam were such good friends, and when they played outside together, they were superstars. But without Juzam, he couldn't stay at the level we need him to be at, but he's still a great guy.
I saw there was a tournament. I do remember this as well. When they did the World Tour, they obviously had a bunch of CS stops as well as Painkiller. And I saw, bro, I got to ask you about this. You went to an event in Chile. Like, what? Like, this sounds like fucking crazy, bro. What's it like to go there?
Yeah, it was because earlier in his career, BSL had started or joined MIBR. So he knew, he had played with them earlier. He knew all the guys in MIBR. He knew their owner, who was one of the fathers, and he was rich, super
I think he was a
rich.
millionaire, something, right? Yeah.
Yeah. More than that, probably. So they were probably not that good back then. So they actually paid us to go down to Rio de Janeiro, stay for them for 2 weeks just to boot camp and get them to be better. So they flew us down to Rio, and we were a lot better than them. So we of course, our training routine was going to the beach in the morning, drinking beer, and then going to the practice room at late at night, kind of drunk and playing them.
But still beating them, I guess, right?
Yeah. They were getting closer and closer, but that's probably because we had so much beer. But there was always a plan. When we were first down there was this CPL World Tour event in Chile and Santiago, and of course, when you get the chance when you're down there, you have to go. And that was at like pretty like a local, kind of small land, but kind of big. There was a lot of teams there. MIBR were there, we were there, the best teams in Chile, and probably some other Brazilians. So, but it was still kind of the old school land feeling. But that's probably maybe except for the finals in WEG Season 1, where we played it in Beijing at a big arena. There probably in Chile, the place where the most fans were crazy about us.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever taken so many pictures and writing so many autographs, especially when there are probably not more than a couple of thousand people there. It was super crazy. It was super fun. So I only have great memories about Santiago and that event. It was one of my favorite memories from tournaments, even though we placed probably third and whatever. But just going down there and having that experience is something I look greatly back on.
Also, as I referenced earlier, then the lineup did change and become more competitive, because then you got in what at the time were like just the best other Norwegian players. If people don't remember, what happened was there was a Norwegian Team 9 team. And first of all, anyone who watched this team, it's like elemeNt again, mate. That real guy was like 15 years old. He was already just wrecking everyone. He was just fucking killing everyone. And actually, the other player, who sadly is now forgotten, the player Oops, he was pretty good too, mate. Like, these guys were like, when these guys joined your team, I know actually the sad thing is, it didn't last that long. Like, this team didn't really like fulfill its potential. I always thought this roster on paper looked amazing, mate. It should have been so much better.
Yeah. They were, Oops and Real were the new superstars of the Counter-Strike world. They were amazing aimers, and of course Real is on another level again, but they were up and coming. Here Real was probably 15 and Oops were probably 18, but when we got them, we thought, okay, now we're going to win everything. But like you said, it didn't pan out that way. We beat pretty much a lot of teams online, but one thing I do remember, maybe the first event we went to was that CPL or a WEG Season 3?
Oh, you mean the World Esports one where we beat SK, yeah?
Yeah, but I'm talking about that, but I just remember one thing about Oops, which maybe ruined his career.
Okay.
It was, we went to summer CPL something. We placed pretty bad. And he was always pretty concerned about its stats. If he wasn't top fragging,
Okay.
he was getting to him. But often him or Juvenile or Real were of course top fragging. But before he went to that CPL, we were doing pretty good online. But just before the event, Got Fragged released their now known as HLTV super statistics.
Right.
So with a guy that with oops mentality, he wanted to shine. He wanted
right.
everyone to say he was the best player. And we see him when he started that tournament pretty bad. He was just digging himself in the ditch, watching that statistics, always trying to get extra frags because he had wanted to look good. So yeah, that was probably the end of his career because he couldn't handle that.
Right.
In my experience, maybe he would have a different story, but that's what I remember, or that's what I felt, and the other guys.
By the way, that joke I made earlier where I said that like shaGuar was just so shameless, he would even just take the scrim demos and just put the sick clip. Because other players didn't do that, I always tell people, if you think these guys are amazing at like the CPL, you should see when you have like a HeatoN or a Potti or a Real or something like that in scrims. I've heard these guys are just unbelievable, the shit they can do. Like, is it true? People tell me who played with him that Real was some like Forest type talent. He was just like some insane player, right?
Yeah, he's up with Forest. He's extremely... You couldn't even understand what he did. Suddenly he shoots people through walls almost without shooting. He was just trying everything in scrims and online. He was always probably better online, but he was also great online. He's probably the most talented gamer I've ever played with. Even more talented than elemeNt, even though elemeNt crushes him at winning trophies and doing things in his career, but the raw talent of Real is nothing else, in my opinion.
To ask you about the now infamous World Esports Games, the one that was in China, right? There's a couple of details. Before we even get to the SK result and the run, I actually have two things I want to ask about. So one, this was a really scoffed one, because if you remember, it was the one where some teams flew there first, then the event got like cancelled initially, so they were just staying there for like 2 weeks. Then it was on again, and then people came back, or some people went home or some people just stayed there. And also, I can tell you, one of the weirdest things I remember about this event was when they had the SK team, which was the Swedes of, Fisker and all those guys. Back then, people weren't as cultured as they are Naikon. If you have an event today in like Korea, people will go there and be like, oh, Korean food's so interesting. Back then, all the Nordic players were like, they wouldn't even eat Chinese food. They were just going like KFC every day or something. So, believe it or not, actually, all these fucking Western players were flaming the fuck out of this event before it began. So I want to know about that aspect. Like, listen, going to China sounds interesting, but it sounds like very weird circumstances.
Yeah, it was. We all the teams got there when we were supposed to be. We were flown down by the tournament organization. That was also great. They had a lot of
money and stuff, right?
Yeah. They paid for hotel. They paid for travel. They paid for food. They paid probably a little extra pocket money. And but when we got there, the event was in Hangzhou, I think, in China, which I had never heard of.
It's not a big place at the time, as far as I know, right?
It was only 10 million people living there. So, but one of the messages we got when we got there, they said the tournament was cancelled because they didn't want to say. But so we had to stay there for 2 weeks before just waiting if we were going to play the event or something. And which the reason why is, I don't know. Someone say, I'm not saying it, but allegedly they had to grease some politicians.
It was something like the city wouldn't let them hold the event or something. They had to bribe them, like you say. I think I heard something similar there.
Yeah, I think actually they had to bribe them just to get us to play the event. But so we stayed there for 2 weeks, of course, practicing, but at least we could go out on town and party and stuff like that. So. Some went home and some stayed. I stayed, obviously, and partied a lot with Four Kings.
Did you like it? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I had a great time. Me and I think Goodfella and he was name was Kier. What was his? I don't remember.
Akuji, UK player.
Akuji, yeah. I just remember us three went out a lot during those 2 weeks.
Right. By the way, I do know, obviously, the big result at this one was beating SK. Because if people forget, they won the CPL, they were considered the number one team. Now, look, the other part that's famous is then BSL. As we say, we did love the camera. He did like the epic thing where he took the shirt off. By the way, not a great picture. I wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't put that on the screen right now. But I tell you what, it was epic though. It was fucking epic. You guys like 16-0'd them, right?
Yeah, 16-0. That was such a great moment, just for the Norwegian Counter-Strike scene. Finally, a Norwegian team not only beat SK, but beat them 16-0. And losing 16-0 back then, or also now, is super embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. And I don't know, we just got going, and I don't remember much of the match, but like you said, we won 16-0. And after games, of course, you go up towards the opponent and shake their hand. I never felt such weak handshakes like after that game, because they were so pissed off because they lost 16-0.
Sure.
I had shaked hands with them before. Then it was real handshakes, but now it was like 5 dead people. And I loved the idea what BSL threw his shirt, so they had to see his naked body
the man
as well.
boobs as well.
Yeah. That just adds to the story.
True.
It's a great memory.
It was epic.
He had confidence. Can't blame him. He had confidence.
The only thing is, though, listen, as I said previously, a lot of players have these stories where they don't win. The only thing is, though, I know him and some of the other players think you guys should have done better, though. Like, you guys lost to Complexity with Fraud. Listen, it was a good team. They obviously were very good, too. But, like, do you feel like you guys could have gone for... Could you have won this event, do you think?
Yeah, I think we could have. I think we were pretty disappointed with going out, but like you said, we played against... we lost to Complexity, and Fraud at that time were the world's best opper. He was just picking everyone everywhere. He was a machine on long distance, close distance. So we lost to them fair and square. But on another day, maybe we could have beaten them. And after losing to them, maybe we got third, didn't we? Maybe
fourth
or fourth.
Yeah.
Fourth, yeah. We lost to the Korean team in their.
But this is when they got really good too. That was like Solo.
Yeah.
Them. They were pretty good too, right?
Yeah, they were pretty good. They were up and coming team, and they were really individual skill players.
Yes.
Solo, he was internet famous because he had method aim.
Yes.
So yeah, and the team that won was the Chinese team.
Yes.
WNV.
Yes. By the way, I should ask you about that, because there's two things. One, this is where, let's just say, because in the years after this, I got to know Real. If you want to know, by the way, he's appropriately named. This guy also doesn't have any filter, by the way. Oh, he just straight up told me in an interview I once did Naikon. Everyone else just did this thing where you do, in English you say it's like a euphemism. You say stuff like, they were a lot better in China, weren't they? See, bro, he just tells me straight up, he thinks they cheated. He thinks he said, I've played them in Europe and I played them there, and they were normal in Europe. They were like a good team. But he said, if you played them in China, he just thinks they could hear the commentators or something. He said they were like unbeatable, basically. Is it true, do you think?
I think so too. I think they had the advantages that we didn't have. Maybe the announcers, maybe signs in the crowds, because we didn't understand Chinese. Right. Maybe something like that. Because even if you saw the demos after, and everyone that played them felt like they knew absolutely everything. And we have played top CS for 5-6 years. This was something new, unknown team that just stomped on everyone, and we felt like they kind of had an advantage they shouldn't have had. So I will agree with Real. I don't think they would have won in Europe.
Sure. By the way, that's also why I love Real, because since he was a sick player, and at this point in time he was only like a poker pro, so he didn't give a fuck about coming out. That's why he just was like, yeah, I just think they cheated. Fuck them, I love it. I love people who are just raw like that. They don't have any filter to hold them back.
Yeah, I talk to him once in a while, but he's, like you said, he's a pro everything that doesn't involve a real job, living in Dubai. Yes. And sometimes he plays with me and BSL and have a good time with 140 ping and living the life. So
sure,
he's still a fun guy to talk to.
By the way, the whole, did they have an advantage aside? This was also, people forget, technically it was started at the WEG before, because the WNV team won that as well. But if you remember, think of the story. At the first WEG, if you played the Chinese or the Korean teams, which were the same players pretty much, they were just in different orgs or whatever, at the time they were the joke teams. You're going to beat them. That's easy. Everyone almost, in football, if you're in the Premier League, if you're playing the worst team, you can almost mark that off the calendar. Oh, we'll win that game. Focus on the next one. like, even though, look, I do think WNV maybe had help, but the Korean team didn't have help from the Chinese. Like, they actually were really good at this time. It was kind of like a revolution that they became so good in CS, right?
And they probably got better during those 2 weeks before the event, because they got to scrim for 2 weeks against the European teams. So we kind of helped them to get better as well. They didn't have great matchups locally to play against, but so that got them better. But I don't remember. Maybe didn't the solo team, the Lunatic High or what they were called, didn't they travel some tournaments to Europe prior?
Here's the thing. Maybe? Lunatic High was the other team in Korea. Yeah. They went to some Western Atlantic America, but as far as I know, this solo one just stayed in Korea most of the time. Yeah. Probably. Maybe they did World Cyber Games or something. Maybe they might even wanted something.
Yeah, I think they went someplace abroad, probably playing without really remembering. Yeah. But they seemed more solid, like a real team, not someone that suddenly beat the top.
Yes. By the way, you sort of addressed it earlier when you told the story about Oops. But the other thing that's brutal about this lineup is the team's looking so good. It's got like so many promising aspects. The lineup looks good. But you went basically, and you had this CPL in America. It went really badly. Unfortunately, you guys went out super early. And aside from when you did that mini comeback next year, you were basically retired after this. You were just done, right? That was the end of the lineup. You were gone.
Yeah. That was like I quit again. Because I didn't bother. I lost my passion. There was too much traveling every summer for 5 years. I did not get to hang out with our friends doing social stuff. So I was just tired of the grind and not even making money. So I was, after that event, I was just, I'm done. You just go on without me. So I quit. I quit Catch Gamer after that. And then I don't remember the lineup after, but they picked up probably some great players. But they picked up elemeNt maybe. I don't remember, but I quit after that Catch Gamer tournament during that summer.
Right, one thing I want to know is when you came back the next year, you actually came back to like Meet Your Makers, like the Ad elemeNt and Real and all these players, and again you came back, but that was when they'd already they'd gotten good, but like this period was it was all right. Was that like a real comeback for you? Were you just playing because they asked you? If it had gone better, would you have played for more years?
No. I was only coming back because they needed a fifth player. I'd quit. I'd started, school again, and I played probably like mixed games during that year a little bit, but nothing serious. But they struggled to find a fifth player with LAN experience.
Right.
They could not find a single Norwegian player, at least, with LAN experience that had actually performed on LAN. They had tryouts with a lot of Norwegian talents, but they could not trust them if they cheated or not. So in the end, 3 or 4 weeks before the summer, they'd asked me, "Hey, do you want to play with us during the summer? Because we know your skill, we know we can trust you." So that's why I made a comeback. I was probably not up for it skill-wise because I hadn't played much that year, and my mind was still tired of gaming. But I went there I could at least get a free vacation to go to Denmark and Paris and places like that. So that's why I made a comeback. I was certain I was not going to continue after the summer. I didn't tell them, but in my mind, I was never going to play because I had already quit. I was tired of everything.
In this lineup, though, you did get to play with one of the other, like, next generation Norwegian, the guy PRB, who was often like Real's partner in crap. What was this guy like?
He was a quiet, reserved guy, but he was the super aimer and probably kind of like Oops. He was just an all-around good aimer and fragger. Not particularly bad at strategies, not particularly good either. But he was a chill guy to hang around, and he was obviously good enough to play in that team with Real and Juven9le and those guys.
By the way, in this sort of an era, this is like almost towards the end of elemeNt's career, and also he was another person who did, on certain years, I feel like he flipped a coin. Some years he cared, some years whatever, I'll just play for the money in the story, in the party, in lieu of my friends, like you say. In this team, were they trying to be like tactical? Were they trying to do proper practice and stuff?
I'm not sure. The only time I played with them was we had 1 or 2 weeks boot camp in Copenhagen before the events that summer. So obviously when we were there, we were playing hard, but we were not doing like hardcore strategies. We were taking everything on the fly, as I remember it. And like I said, when I quit, I didn't only just want to be a social guy. If you have done a grind for so many years without getting paid, no stable income, no stable prize money, no stable nothing. It's just a hard grind, getting ends to meet. You had to win pretty much every tournament to have a financial okay situation. So in the end, it was not economically worth putting so much time into something for so many years compared to getting a real job. So that's pretty much a huge reason why I got tired of everything.
Even so, you did play like quite a few years at that time. Like you had at the time quite a long career, and you'd played in all these different teams, and you'd had the ups and downs. It sounds in the interview now like you have a fairly good memories of this. At the time when you retired, were you at all bitter? Did you feel like that was a waste of time? Did you already understand it was a cool career? Was it good?
Yeah, because everyone around me were jealous of me because probably not winning, but they were jealous because of the traveling experience, everything like that. So I knew that I've done something huge, and I always had a huge Norwegian following. So every time I met people on the street and in the bar, and they were always supportive of me. So I knew I've done something extraordinary in gaming, sort of sense. But gaming-wise, I was tired after quitting Meteor Makers that summer. I didn't touch a CS or a computer for 10 years.
Oh wow! Right.
Yeah, I was just okay. I need a break. That lasted a long time.
You came and played some CS:GO though for fun?
Yeah, no. I broke my ankle in 2016. That's the first time I played CS again after quitting in 2006 or something. So, but after that, I played quite a few games, and I enjoyed it. Enjoyed relaxing playing games.
Do you get the thing that a lot of people tell me in these interviews, which is the thing they say pisses them off when they play now, is it just used to be so easy to be good, whereas they play now and it's really hard to say. Are you good when you play?
Yeah. I think I'm pretty good for being a 41-year-old.
Right.
I know I'm not even close to the reactions that the kids these days have. But compared to my age and my lack of reaction compared to in my young years, and of course my mind is slower now as well, and I don't know all the nades, I still consider myself pretty good to be an old guy.
Do you get that thing where if you put your tag on, do people recognize you if you're playing CS?
Yeah, that happens sometimes. I can never have my tag on in CS or other games, because every time a new game comes or every time a new portal site comes, my nickname is always taken.
Right.
So I'm playing kind of incognito, but sometimes people check my Steam profile and then see it's a Steam account from 2001 or 4 or something like that, and then they're like, hey, I remember you. So yeah, sometimes you get recognized, but people nowadays have no clue pretty much, and that's okay for me.
Do you ever tune in and watch a CS event? If it's CS:GO or CS2, do you ever do it?
Yeah, I usually watch some games when there's a major and some huge tournaments. I watch some playoff games and I enjoy it. And my problem, which is probably not the player's problem, but for me as a viewer that's not that engaged, it's just too many games and too many tournaments.
Right.
For me, I can't pay attention for a new tournament every week, but for the majors, I can watch it and enjoy it.
Right.
Because that's when I feel like the old passion with the audience and the screaming and the big situation and clutches. So I enjoy watching the top players play, and they are insane.
One thing a lot of people from your era tell me in these interviews is another thing they never expected was, because no one knew how big CS would get. Like, I'll tell you an obvious joke that me and you will understand that a fan won't, which is around the time you retired. By the way, similar time as like when Potti retired, etc. When you guys retired, no one was like, what an idiot. Actually, everyone kept saying CS is going to be dead in a year. It's amazing it kept lasting more years, and 1.6 kept going into like 2012. No one thought that. Everyone thought every year was going to be the last year and the prize money's going down. So people, if you would have told someone in the 2000s there would be CS and it would be a huge game in 2025, they'd go, no way. It'll be like, it'll be like StarCraft or something. It'll be some other future game. Is it kind of wild to see that CS still exists? In fact, it's enormous now.
Yeah, like you said, it felt like CS was dying when I quit. It was starting to die. And CS Source had just come out, and WCG, ECG. They were forcing people to play CS Source, and CS Source were so horrible in the beginning. It was such a bad experience, and then we just kind of felt that this is how it's gonna continue. It's gonna die. It's not gonna continue. And CPL, the organization, dissolved. They stopped having tournaments. So I would never have believed CS was gonna be big 15, 20 years later, like it is now. It's amazing to see, and I'm happy for the people that are playing it now. Of course, someone have to be Maradona and Pelé. Everyone can't be Messi and Ronaldo making all the money, but that's just how it is.
True. Oh, I forgot to ask you, actually. There was obviously that one World Cyber Games where you guys had to play in Source. And obviously, like, by the way, if you go look at the results, this is a fucking wacky tournament because everyone qualified in 1.6 and had to play in Source. What was it actually like to play a tournament in Source if you're not a Source player? It sounds a bit weird.
Yeah, we didn't care. We just took the free travel to Singapore.
Right.
No practice beforehand. We just went there and swam in the pool. And
sounds like a pretty cool place to go. It's a pretty cool environment.
It was super cool. I think we stayed at like a theme park.
Oh wow!
I think we played at the arena was at the theme park as well. But for me, I had meningitis the whole time, so I didn't really enjoy it. But yeah, the event was in Source, and no team really cared about it. That's the two tournaments I played the Source, and they were both bad experiences. The other one was the European version of that in Hanover. Then we went, and then at that event, we really didn't care. We got the free travel from the organization. And the day before the tournament started, we had us and Virtus Pro went to like this small brown pub, and we drank vodka till like 5 or 6 in the morning. And then we had to play our first game against GG at 10 a.m. or something. I was so drunk to play that game.
By the way, it's a classic question I always like to ask older school people. I'm sure some old school people do remember your name and some of the teams you were in. But if you got to choose how people remember you, what your legacy in Counter-Strike would be, what would you want people to think about Naikon?
Remember, that's a tough question. I want them to have to remember me for being at the top level for so long, and pretty much all my peers wanted me in their team. I never got kicked off a team either. I was only duty kicking. That is just want them to remember as an all-round great player. That was not the best, not the worst, but can still hang around with the big boys for 5 or 6 years.
And then since you were in teams where not everyone was like a media star, maybe some of them aren't remembered, I want to ask who you would pick for this. Who do you think of all your teammates was the most underrated teammate you had? Was there someone that never got like the credit you think was good?
That's kind of hard. I think everyone got the credit they deserved. Maybe I'm the one that didn't get enough, but I didn't want it.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I was not that outgoing as a person back then, so I didn't really want to do media.
Right.
Even though, I could have done a lot more, but it was pretty nice to have elemeNt and shaGuar and BSL to do them. It was, but so I enjoyed being in the background a bit, because when I started playing, the internet was kind of hard place to be. So the more exposed to yourself, of course everyone is toxic online now, but it was
crazy.
I think it was worse back then.
Yes,
because then there was a lot of forums and threads, and there was no moderators. It seems like there was everything was out in the open. So the more you exposed yourself, the more you had to handle shit.
Sure.
Yeah, and I was kind of heavy at the start, so I got pretty.
People comment on your looks or something, right?
From when I was 16 till I was 19, it was a pretty rough ride online. So that's probably the reason I never cared to do interviews. Even though I lost the weight, it was still like in the back of my mind. Just, I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to play my game and make them shut up.
By the way, one thing you said earlier as well is actually a lot of the Norwegian players did have that situation. Like, if people don't know, the two most successful Norwegian players are elemeNt and XeqtR, and that's mainly because they just went and joined other teams. Like, they would just go join Swedish teams or American teams, whatever, right? Actually, for Norwegian teams, there weren't many squads that had salary and got to go to events and stuff. It sounds like you're quite proud of actually being someone who was a world champion and was able to have these big successes, right?
Of course. Like you said, salaries, it was not yet the usual. It was pretty much only the Swedish teams. NIP probably got some, Adrenaline got some. And when they joined SK back then was a solid organization. They had things handled. Probably Mouse Sports gave salaries. I think the first time I got a little bit was NOA. And that was also kind of like maybe on Siege's credit card.
Right.
And the second time I got salary was the summer with Meteor Makers. So, yeah, I think it's easier back then, not financially. You had to struggle a bit just to go to events and making ends meet. So, yeah, I'm one of the few that got salary. But it wasn't much, but at least I got that achievement.
Sure. By the way, are you actually someone, since also you were quite a quiet guy, you seemed like a very humble guy back then. When you look back now, I've noticed another phenomenon with old pros, is when you're now older and you're not as good anymore, it makes you actually almost get cocky. Fuck, I was good back then. Bro, I used to be sick. Like, do you feel like that if you think about how you used to be?
I think I'm kind of, maybe not my close friend, but probably to say, but I think I'm kind of still pretty humble. Okay. Maybe I'm not looking humble in this interview. Maybe I'm a little bit more self-confidence in my skills than I used to. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure how to answer that.
At the end of this interview, do you have a final message? Would you like to thank anyone or say hello to anyone who watches?
I just wanted to thank everyone that supported me during the years, all the fans that maybe still remembers had good times as kids when they played me and when they watched me. And I also, of course, would like to thank all my earlier teammates and opponents. Without like SK, we wouldn't have those great clashes and great games. So everyone evolved around the game earlier. You as well, the media that made this known along with us players. So yeah, and I'd like to. So yeah, pretty much everyone I've talked to during the years only have fond memories. No grudges, nothing.
Just, mange takk.
Ja. Mange takk, ja. Vær så god.
Oh yeah? You and whose army? Well, how about the Illuminati for one? They're the people who support my content. This video was kindly supported by The Concept, Matt Pugnatio Rakula, Toucan, Jensen Gore, Tosh, Jason, Bane Diesel, Animosity, and you know it, everyone does. A special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion, for the long-term support. Do you want to ask a question for my AMA videos? Would you like teasers? Find out what upcoming guests I've got? You want to suggest a topic or a guest? Maybe you want to be part of one of those 1 hour lengthy online discussions I do where the topics are set by you. Well, if any of these perks or more tickle your fancy, I think you know what to do by now. Put your money where your mouth is and join the Illuminati, where Patreon link in the description below.